Philly-born comedian Reggie Conquest. Fans of Abbott Elementary know him as Devin, the cafeteria guy. He also had a part in HBO's Insecure, where he had a sex scene.
I looked at it as just like, oh, this is work. This is a job. Like I didn't even realize at the time how big the show was, how big the part was. I was just like, this is work. The rehearsal, it's line delivery, and then you come in, you robe up, and then you get it popping.
A conquest? Perhaps, in more ways than one. That's his real name, Reggie Conquest. And he's next on Fresh 24. Reggie Conquest, West Philly native, now living in New York City. You're a comic, you're a writer, you're an actor, including a role in the hit TV series Abbott Elementary. Yep. Reggie Conquest, welcome to Fresh 24.
What's up, man? It's so nice to finally be here. We've been trying to do this for a minute.
Yeah, that, and I've been friendly with your father for forever, so it's about time you showed up.
Yeah, I remember you at the wedding.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, people might hear Conquest and think it's a stage name, but it's not. It's your actual name, right?
Yes, it's my mother's last name. I use it on stage, and yeah, my dad wasn't a fan of that.
Oh, because you were not using his name.
Yeah, because I wasn't using his name, so I didn't want to use his last name, because I'm already his first name. So, we're both Reggies, and I wanted to add my mom's name on that. So, yeah. So it's both of them. So Reggie, he has Reggie, my mom has Conquest.
Reggie, when you think of something and you think it's funny, how do you know other people are going to think it's funny?
You just go on stage and you try it. Just throw it out there. Normally, if things make me laugh, like privately, I'm like, this is funny. This got to be funny. Like if something makes me laugh, if I think of something that makes me laugh, I always say it on stage.
So I think comedians like a Chris Rock, he'll go into a small club, right, and try out material there. What do you do?
Same thing. We both. Chris Rock started he started in New York. He works the Comedy Cellar, so I normally go to I'm at Comedy Cellar most nights a week, 6 times a week. And try out jokes there, try out ideas. And that's where it all starts from.
So Chris Rock, Kevin Hart's a Philly guy.
Mm-hmm.
You ever cross paths with any of those dudes?
All the time at the Comedy Cellar. All the big hitters.
They go out there, and Kevin included.
Sometimes you got to go up after them. Because when those guys come around, they immediately, everybody gets bumped. So that means a bumping means when a famous comic comes, we all get bumped. We all gotta wait later. So you still get paid, but it takes your time away. So if you get bumped, instead of doing 15, you got to do 8. Because Chris Rock or Kevin Hart or Chappelle they can do however long they want.
Yeah, but coming after them, that's like batting after the guy who hits the grand slam.
Yeah, and it definitely helps. It makes you stronger. It makes you just a stronger comic. Anytime you're going after somebody famous or for somebody strong, it makes you a stronger comic. Nothing compares to it. It's pretty dope.
So what is it that makes you a stronger comic? Like, what do you feel you have to do after Kevin Hart or Chris Rock or somebody like that gets off stage?
The crowd, when those guys' names gets announced, the crowd already loses it. It's like, holy shit. Can I curse?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Oh, okay. I won't curse
too
much.
We're not on over-the-air TV. Those days are over.
But it's like, oh shit, I paid to come see a comedy show. Now you got the biggest comic in the world here. The crowd loses it. So you gotta you got to follow that energy because they're after a Chappelle or Rock or Chris gets off, they're like, wow, that was amazing. So you want to keep that energy up, and you don't want to you don't want to do bad after those guys. But most comics do pretty well after that. That's what the seller kind of gets you to do, get better.
So, what's the Kevin Hart vibe? Just Philly to Philly, that kind of thing.
Like what do
Yeah, I
you
mean,
mean?
like when you guys see each other backstage, as you're from Philly. Like, what's the vibe about?
Kev has been super famous for so long. Like he is Philly, but it's like he's like so famous. So
Hmm.
we've met, we've spoken, but we don't have talks about Philly or anything like that. It's always like the last conversation we had was pretty dope. I was with the Philly guys, Philly comics, who we all moved up here to do comedy, and Kevin Hart's mentor, Keith Robinson, is also our mentor, and he works the cellar too. And he said first when he was coming up, the back table wasn't. It's just four black guys back there, and he said it wasn't like that when he was coming up. And he was telling us how we were keeping Keith Robinson going, and it was a good conversation. It was like a really like it was the most he's ever talked and been like sincere. It was pretty dope. I always like cherish that conversation he had with us.
So, when you say the back table, you mean the back table at the club?
Yeah, the back table at the club where only comics are allowed to sit. You got to work the comedy cellar to sit. So that's where a lot of the older comics would sit and come up with jokes or talk shit but only comics are allowed back there. They got signs that say only cellar comics can sit here.
So, do you have to be born funny, or can you learn to be funny?
Man, Philly is a funny city. Like Philly is you can definitely I grew up in Philly like just being around people that are I know so many people that are funnier than me. They just like one of my closest friends, like my dad is one of the funniest dudes I know. And like my
Agreed.
friend, yeah, my friend Germ, who's super it's so Philly is just a funny, naturally funny city. And it's so many people that could do comedy. They just comedy's a craft, and you just if you want to do it, you do it. If you don't, you know.
So you say it's a craft that's interesting. Naturally, you were funny growing up, I'm sure, as a kid, cracking jokes at the dinner table in school with your classmates, all of that.
Yeah.
But when you say it's a craft, what are some of the things, whether it's timing or delivery, that you have to sharpen that make you even funnier?
uh Practice, repetition, like just going and practice, like getting up, telling the same stories, telling the jokes, finding other things that you can add to it, add to the story. Maybe it's a facial expression, maybe it's how you pronunciate, maybe it's an act out. It's over and over and over doing the same material and getting more material and adding it in and just building.
And this guy, Keith Robinson, who was actually Kevin Hart's mentor,
Hmm.
I guess he's a comedian in his own right. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Keith has been around forever. He's the OG. He's the old head. He's our comedy mentor, and he's been around. I get to see him. I get the pleasure of seeing him most nights at the Comedy Cellar, and he kind of put me under his wing, and me and my friends Derek, Monroe, Dave, we're all like under Keith. So yeah, Keith is the man.
So, was there a moment growing up in West Philly when you just went to your parents and said, "All right, I got to go to New York or LA or whatever, and I got to go be a comic. See you later." Was there a moment like that? And if so, how did they react?
I remember, I'll never forget when I was like 18. I remember telling my dad, I thought I wanted to be like in radio because I knew I wanted to be funny, but I thought I wanted to be in radio. And, I think that generation just can't really see what's not in front of them. So my dad would always push school, 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 he couldn't really see it. But I do remember thinking like I wanted to be a radio DJ. I remember telling my dad, and he was like, "What?" He's like, "You're not," because I never really was funny in front of my dad. Like I wasn't. I was an awful student, like public
Mm-hmm.
high school. Like my grades were bad. I was just a bad student. So anything like that, my dad was like, "Well, you got to go to school for that. Like you got to go." He would. I never forget. He would. When I first told them, my mom and dad, I was moving to New York, it didn't really register. Like they were like, yeah, because at that time I had said I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this. I went to like airplane school. I was going to community, and I knew early that school wasn't for me. Like I knew it, but I was just going to. My dad wanted me to go, and my mom like they wanted me to do that route, but I knew it, but I tried. And I remember my dad telling me like, "Oh, Chris Rock went to college." He would say things like that to try to get me to go to school. And then later you find out Chris Rock was a dropout. Like he was just trying to find different ways to get me to go to school. But then later, this came later. I'm like, Chris Rock didn't even graduate high school. Kevin Hart is a dropout. Like a lot of the greatest comics are not. And then there are some that graduated college, but yeah. So I just remember him saying that. And it was like back then I was like, but now you get older, you're like, they didn't go to school at all.
Reg, what's unique about black humor as opposed to, you know, white people or Jews or anybody who might have their own particular kind of humor? What's unique to black humor?
I think black humor, we find humor in like everything. Like and that stems from slavery, that stems from just being in bad situations and making light of it, like growing up I can't say I didn't grow up poor, but no, I never grew up poor. I can't say that. My dad will see this and be like, "What?" But we didn't grow up. How am I trying to say? Black humor is very unique because we always find the funny thing, no matter how bad things are. We always find a humor. I don't care how bad it is. It can be the worst thing possible, and I feel like black people can find the humor in it, and you have to find the humor in it as far as comedy. And I don't want to speak for all black people, but I know me. I can find the humor in anything. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's humor in any and everything, no matter how dark it is, no matter how bad it might be.
I
Some
was going to
comics
say
can
like
work out.
I was going to say like even Mel Brooks did a Broadway show with an overriding Nazi theme to it in the
Yeah,
producers. So I'm just thinking, um, you know, how comedians think that they may offend like Chappelle or whoever, but
I don't know. I
is
think
there a fine line there, or is truly everything okay for comedians to make fun of to get a laugh?
I I will say that I always think of this. Chappelle has this picture up at the Punchline Philly when it first opened up. They booked Chappelle. Chappelle showed out like 7 shows, and it's a picture back in the green room. And Chappelle signed it, and he says, "Whatever it is, say it." Chappelle signed that on the picture, and I always think of that.
Mm.
So I try to do my comedy like that. Whatever it is, say it. If you have a joke, man, I'm not going to go up and talk about Israel and Palestine if I don't have a joke about it. Like I'm not one of those comics that's like, if I have a joke, I will say it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
will say it. I don't have a problem with saying it if I have a joke. I had a joke about Kobe when he passed, and I
Mm.
did it. And that's a dark joke,
Mm.
but I'm one of I feel like if you have a joke about something and it's funny or you think it's funny, you should try it. I don't think nothing's off limits when it comes to comedy as far as being a comic. I don't think so.
So let's take the Kobe example. Why is it okay to do that? Kobe just we
Yeah,
all
it
cried.
hurt.
We
That
all
was the
cried.
first.
Right.
That was
So
the
what?
first.
So what does humor on top of that do to that situation for anybody?
It's like I remember when I first did it. It got like a mixed reaction. Like then it was just it was a Philly joke. Now I would never do it, and it was a topical thing too. But I wouldn't do it in LA. I knew I wouldn't continue to do it, but I know at the time it was a good Philly joke, you know, and yeah. And I cried when Kobe died too, and I still had a joke about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
When you're creating humor for your act, do you picture a certain person? I mean, how do you picture your audience? I know that when I was communicating, when I was the play-by-play guy, I would picture a certain somebody, an individual fan sitting there watching on his or her TV. What do you think about when you're creating humor?
um, I,
Or does it
I
just come into your head?
yeah, it just comes. I don't really think of like the audience. Like I don't really think of like, oh, what they like. I always just go, if and jokes come randomly. Like I can be in the shower, I can be like half asleep with my eyes closed, and something will pop in my head, and I just roll over and write it in my phone.
Yeah, and
So
you got to write it down, right? I'm
yeah,
sure
you
you've
got.
pissed yourself
I
off
got
plenty of times when you thought of something. Oh, I'll remember, and then you forget.
yeah. So now I just write it down. Like my notes in my phone are just full of like lines, stuff that I don't. Some of the stuff I don't even remember, but any idea, anything that I think is funny or I hear my dad say or something like that, I'll write it down.
Well, Reggie, we got to talk Sixers. That's coming up. This
Oh,
is
okay.
halftime, by the way, but I'm just doing a little tease here.
Hmm.
You had a brief athletic career. I know you played football. What I think it was at Roxborough for a minute, right?
Yep. Yep.
You did a sex scene on TV, and you are a recurring character in the hit TV show Abbott Elementary, which has a deep Philly vibe. But
Yeah.
first, it is now halftime. Garage Beer's six pack of questions is on the way to you. It's brought to you by Garage Beer, beer flavored beer. Find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. I'm going to give you a choice, Reggie, between two things. Just blurt out the answer. Don't think about it. Don't
All right.
think about it. All
I
right. Are
got
you
you.
ready?
All
All right,
right.
here we go. Philly cheesesteak or Philly soft pretzel?
Philly cheesesteak.
Center City or South Jersey?
Center City.
Gritty or Philly fanatic?
Philly fanatic.
Meek Miller, Hall and Oates?
Meek Mill.
Dr. J or Allen Iverson
Allen
throwback?
Iverson.
Yeah,
Allen
you couldn't spit that out fast enough, could you?
Iverson.
Liberty Bell or Rocky Steps?
Liberty Bell.
All right. The six pack of questions brought to you by Garage Beer, beer flavored beer. Find some near you at drinkgaragebeer.com. And now I'm going to delve into my music library and give you a handful of artists from that library. You tell me if you have them or not. Are you ready?
All right.
Sting,
No.
Queen,
No. Wait,
the
but
Isley Brothers,
yeah.
Quincy Jones.
No.
Or here's a layup for you. Lil Uzi Vert.
No.
No.
Uh,
Seriously. I
I
figured
don't listen.
that was a slam dunk, not even a layup.
Wait, you saying do I listen to these people?
Well, do you have them in your music library? Like, can
I
you dial them up?
I have some Queen. I have Queen over Lil Uzi Vert. I
Wow.
probably
Okay.
listen to more. I probably listen to more Queen than I have Lil Uzi Vert.
So, from a stereotype standpoint, that would be a surprise, right?
Yeah, I mean Lil Uzi Vert is he's not for me.
Why is that?
I think because I'm from that older, well, of my generation, older Philly, like Meek Mills, Beanie Siegel, Stay Prop, and all that.
Right.
Uzi Vert is for like the generation under me, maybe my sister's generation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Speaking of rappers, I got a quote from you, and it goes like this. Rappers, you got to live a certain lifestyle to be a rapper. I was always just silly. I hung out with my friends that rapped, but there was certain stuff you had to do. Had to be outside all day, be on corners, got to probably eventually get into drugs, and that just wasn't me. I knew being a rapper wasn't the way to go. Comedy, you can be honest. Rappers, you can't really talk about how mediocre your sex life is. You could talk about that in comedy. Was it ever really a choice between rap and comedy for you?
Wait, I said that
Yes, you did.
on what?
I have a quote from, I think it was like a black oriented website. I'll get it for you and I'll send it to you, but that's a quote from
Oh,
you.
oh, okay. Um, was it a no? I remember when my friends started rapping, I would always be in the background, like a hype man, like do that DVD stuff. I did try to be a rapper, but I couldn't. My friends were doing it and they were getting good at it, but I couldn't rhyme. I just couldn't rap. I couldn't rap.
Right.
Yeah, and
But
then
you,
it's like this fake, like this stuff they were rapping about. They weren't, and I was there, and I was just like, this just don't feel right. You
so
know?
I really do think it's true of comedians. I know we broached this subject earlier, and I think it's true of rappers, and I think it's true of what I did. Play-by-play people, you pretty much have to be born with a propensity to do that kind of stuff. Have the
Yeah,
rhythm, have the feel. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like inside of you, as opposed to like learning it in a classroom or just by
yeah.
watching it.
I mean, watching my friends, they got better as they did it, but I didn't continue to work at it. I was like, you know what, this ain't it.
So this is crazy. Your first job was working in a school cafeteria. Then you end up playing Devin in the hit show Abbott Elementary. It's a guy who works at a cafeteria. That is really art imitating life, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure,
That's
for sure.
crazy. How did that happen? How did you even get the part?
Um, the job or the part, a friend of mine who's a writer on a show named Jordan Temple, knew about the joke, and he lived in New York. He's from New York, but when I first started coming and moving to New York and doing the joke, and he's a writer, and I guess he threw my name in the hat, and I auditioned and I got it. So it was
Wow.
like that,
And it
yeah.
was that simple. No agent, anything like that?
Yeah, you got agents and stuff like that.
Okay.
And but the job my dad got me. He got me. He was getting me in the school district. So yeah, he got
Okay.
me that job. Yeah,
Right. We know he's worked for the school district, among many other things he's done for a while. You know,
yeah,
people don't realize you tape a TV show or a movie for that matter, and it's very tedious work. You got takes, you got retakes, you got different angles. Sometimes you do something and you rip it off perfectly, and somebody drops a piece of equipment or something like that. Did that surprise you when you first started doing that kind of work?
acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely work. It's the like I never liked like clocking in, like never. Like I always
Mm-hmm.
was just bad at jobs. So it's the closest thing to that. Like you got to be on set at time, you got to be there on time, and then you got to remember actions and lines, and it's the closest thing to make me feel like I'm back like working, and I'm like but it's fun, it's cool, it's like, so I can stand it, and you're only there for like a couple hours,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but you are standing around and saying the same things over and over.
You ever go to Quinta and say, you got to write me into a few more scripts?
Nah, I never. I just I'd be happy they wrote me in all 3 seasons, whether it's 1 or 2 episodes, and I'm just happy for that. I'm grateful for that. So, but Quinta's mad nice. She's super cool to work with, and yeah, we talk about Philly a lot, and we're cool.
Nice. She a Sixers fan?
She's Philadelphia everything.
All right, I'm going to get her on the podcast. Hey, what kind of an athlete were you?
I wasn't good. I had one good I had one good year in sixth grade. I mean, not sixth grade, ninth grade, JV, where I started JV. We got like 8 games, and I started
we're
center.
talking about we're talking about football now,
Yeah.
or okay.
Oh, you said athlete? No, I wasn't a
Well,
good
yeah,
athlete.
right. But you said start JV and starting at center. So I'm going to
Yeah,
say the Jason Kelsey kind of center, not the
yeah.
the Joel Embiid kind of center.
No, no, no. I was a Kelsey kind of center, and I started junior varsity all 8 games, and we won. JV is like they win, and then you get the varsity, and it wasn't that. But then I had the sideline dad. My dad
Oh,
would come
okay.
and be like, "What do you like?" He would kind of be, "What are you doing?" Like, what was that? Like that type of. So it kind of. I remember my dad really wanted me to play basketball. Like that was his like dream for me to play basketball, but I never got it. I wasn't good.
Okay. At least you acknowledged it early, and you moved on to certainly bigger and better things. What was your earliest 76ers memory?
As far as the AI years.
Well, if that's it, you know what I'm saying? Like, when's the first time you came to the realization that there was a professional an NBA team in Philadelphia, and you started to follow it. Do you remember the first time?
Um, I don't remember. I just remember Allen Iverson's first couple years. When he I think my dad took me to a game like maybe his third year, and the Sixers weren't good. I think they had Larry Hughes, and a lot of the Sixers guys would. My dad would be reffing, and he had me around a bunch of like NBA dudes early. That I don't. I remember being a kid and go, oh, he plays for such and such. So I was around a lot of basketball players at one point because of my dad. He would do the outside games and those the celebrity games and stuff like that. And then and Sixers players would come around, and
Mm-hmm.
he knew a lot of them.
Did that make you idolize them less because you had been around them?
No, I don't think I realized how my dad would be like, oh, he plays for the NBA, and I think as a kid, I'm like, oh, okay, he plays basketball. I don't think it. I don't think it clicked. I was just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all
right.
right,
Yeah, right.
yeah. And then I don't know. We had my dad had a bunch of basketball cards. Like he had Allen Iverson's rookie card. He would collect basketball cards. He had Michael Jordan's earlier card. He had like a lot, and he gave them to me, and I treasured them for a long time. Like I would try to add to them, but now I don't know where they're at.
Mm. It'd be nice to get Allen Iverson's rookie card. I'll tell you that, and find that.
Yeah, it was.
You get to watch the team much now?
Yeah, I watch him. I haven't. I kind of checked out when Embiid got hurt. I kind of checked out. I watched him last night, so that was a good win. But I don't want them to play Boston in the first round because that would suck. I think, but I still watch them.
Yeah, no, I think that choir's pretty big and singing that tune unanimously. Can they make noise in the playoffs? Let's say they're somehow, I don't know, able to get the seventh seed and maybe play Milwaukee in the first round. What do you think?
I was super like, oh, this might be this might, but then Embiid got hurt again. Then we got a bunch of new guys, and they're still like figuring it out. I thought Buddy would be a little better, but maybe he's just getting there. So maybe playoff time it'll turn up a little bit.
When
Um, but I
when you
just don't want
watch,
to,
go
huh?
ahead.
I
Yeah,
just don't
you
want
go
them to
ahead.
play Boston the first round. That would suck.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
let's put it this way. You would think, barring any kind of an outrageous upset, that they'd have to meet the Celtics at some point. But you're right.
yeah,
Get a series under your belt, I guess, at least before that
yeah.
happens. But we'll see. Um, what are your recollections of Iverson? I know you said you went to a game when they had Larry Hughes, but of course the 2001 season. Anything in particular stick out?
Um, I just remember the city being on like
Nuts.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember that, and just that whole culture of Philly, the McNabb and Allen Iverson era. Then you had Beanie Siegel and the state prop era. It was all in one, and I just remember Philly just being like this. It was like how Houston is now, like real like party city, nightlife, and things change. But I just remember that era was like huge.
I
But
got
I
to
mean,
tell
I
you
didn't.
though, I don't think Houston has half the soul that Philly has, and I don't think that sports in Houston is 1/10 as important
No,
as it
I
is
feel
for
like people
us.
go to Houston to like party now, like hang out
Oh
and
yeah,
like
oh yeah.
I feel like James Harden created a culture in Houston where it's like, oh, like I go to Houston now and it's like it's a good hang, it's a party. It's like,
Okay,
I don't think before James Harden, I don't think it was like that.
let me get back to your career. Roy Wood Jr. was a big help for you. How was that?
Roy was good. He's always throwing me up. He's always giving me advice. When he shot his special for Comedy Central, it might have been his second one. He like again, he knew I had a joke about my dad being a cop, and he reached out. And I remember he texted me, and he got my number from somewhere, and he was like, "What's your availability?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Who this?" And he's like, a dude trying to give you a job. And oh, I was like, oh, hey Roy. Like I had no idea it was him. So yeah, he put me in my first he gave me my first little acting chops.
Hmm.
And he's always been helpful and said kind things and gave advice.
Did he help you to get that role in the TV show Insecure?
No, I auditioned for that.
You did. So
Yeah,
how'd you again? Did you have an agent
yeah,
who got
yeah.
you that? Would you say that was your big break in terms of showing that you had acting chops?
I think it definitely started my acting career. And yeah, it was a hit show, and to come out like that on a hit show like that as your first like major role was nuts.
Mm.
So yeah.
So, so, I got to hit you about this, but you're a big guy, and
Hmm.
at your size, you did a sex scene
Hmm.
for that show with the main character. We're talking about the TV show Insecure. Did you? I don't know. Did you think about getting in shape for that, or just like let it roll?
No, I knew what it was. I was like, oh, they hired a big guy, so that's what they get. I'm not gonna start dieting or anything like that. They hired a big guy. That's what it was. And it's the big guy sex scene. So it's a comedy, it's a dramedy, and that's the comedy part. So I knew what it was, and yeah, I would do it again. No, I wouldn't do that again, but I would do it. Oh, I would do that whole process over again. I wouldn't do another suit news scene again,
Why not?
just because I don't think no, I don't think I'll be able to top what I've already done. So it's like,
Well, listen, plenty of actors have done multiple scenes in multiple movies like that, haven't they? Especially if
yeah,
the pay is right.
maybe I don't know. I don't know. Like
What
I don't.
what was it like when you had to do that?
It was. I looked at it as just like, oh, this is work. This is a job. Like I was super. I didn't even realize at the time how big the show was, how big the part was. I was just like, this is work. Like I'm just happy to get some work because that took just getting that took 10 years.
Yeah,
So it was like,
but still, I mean, yeah. So I see the situation. It's your first big role in TV.
yeah.
You're going to try really really hard not to say no, and yet because of the nature of it, I mean, you had to. You're looking around. There's crew members. It's going to be on TV. Family and friends are going
Oh
to
no,
see it.
it was closed. It was a closed set, so it
It
was
was a
just
close set. Okay.
yeah, just me and the main character. So it
Do
wasn't
you,
like people around and stuff like that.
So, do you get together with the director and discuss how it's going to be done? Do you get with the main character and discuss how you're going to do it? I mean, how does all that work?
Yeah, you do a rehearsal. You do a rehearsal, clothes on. You do a rehearsal like most sets, and you do a rehearsal, and then
Wait, a rehearsal like most sex?
no. Every set I've been on is like a rehearsal, dress
Oh,
rehearsal.
they've done rehearsals for sex scenes in
Yeah,
the past. Okay, got it.
yeah. So yeah, it's a rehearsal. It's line delivery, and then you come in, you robe up, and then you get it popping.
Wow.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
and
I didn't
just like
know.
that,
I didn't know it was good. I didn't know it was the main character until I got there. So
do you say to yourself while you're doing it, "They better get this right. I'm not sure I want to do it again."
I you talking about during the time at the time?
Yeah.
I was just like, man, this is great. I'm working. I'm getting paid to do this, and it's the main character. I didn't know until I got there because in the script they sent me, it was a whole different character. It wasn't. They made up a name. So yeah.
Right. Very interesting. So what's on the horizon for you? What's next? What's going on? What do I need to know?
Um, just continuing to do stand up and acting. Abbott is still out and still dropping episodes, so might pop up in a few episodes of that. And yeah, got some dope stuff coming.
Anything you want to hint at or give us a teaser on?
Nah, because nothing's set in stone. We just working on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And back to Insecure or Abbott Elementary for a second.
Oh, I'm in
Somebody went.
Animal Control also on Fox.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, any of those TV shows, it's like mailbox money, right? I mean, don't you get residuals for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nice to go to your
Yeah. Yeah. It's
mailbox
cool.
and they direct deposit it, or you just get a check in the mail.
No, you get a check. Sometimes it's like 2 cent though. It's not like always like this big check.
Oh, is that right? Okay. So you're going to stay in New York City? You're going to go to LA? What are you doing?
I'm gonna stay in New York City now. I'm in New York. I still love New York. I love New York more now.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna try to not go to LA. Like I'll go to LA for work, and that's about it. Then I'm always gonna come back to the East Coast.
So, are you a happy guy now? I mean, if your career continued like this, you doing stand up, doing occasional TV roles, maybe a movie role, nothing big, but just,
Mhm.
decent, steady work. Are you good? Are you good for that to happen for the next, I don't know, 30, 40 years?
Yeah. I mean, I want to work. I want to get as much things as I can get from this, and then get out, and then go somewhere, go to another country, and just do something else.
And of course, you'll watch the Sixers, right? In some form or
Always,
fashion.
always watch the Sixers. Always.
Reggie Conquest, thank you so much for being with us on Fresh 24, my friend.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Fresh 24. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our friends over at Philadelphia Sports Nation, a local Philadelphia sports site covering your favorite teams across blogs and social media. PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation, PHL Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience.